young attorney out of St. Lucia, a member of the St. Lucia Labor Press Secretary to a St. Lucian Prime Minister, Communications Director for the St. Lucia Labour Party for 2016 elections, and first Vice President of the St. Lucia National Youth Council. To the convention, Ms. Pear brought a wealth of experience and strong track record of service to youth, community development, and political engagement. Her speech was about 30 minutes long, which means for the next 30 minutes we will entertain no phone calls until the party leader arrives, just around 9 p.m. She wowed the audience at the occasion center yesterday, and so we decided it was so nice we have to do it twice. I want you to take a listen.
I want to specially recognize in our midst former Premier Joseph Parry, our political leader, Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, I want to recognize also First Vice President of the NRP, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Mr. Patrick Daniel, Second Vice President of the NRP, your Chairman, Mr. Carlisle Powell, Deputy Chairman, Mr. Stephen Hector, Secretary General, Ms. Angelica Elliott. I want to also say a special good afternoon to every executive member of the NRP. I want to especially recognize the president of your women's arm, Ms. Shanet Tyson, the president of your youth arm, Mr. Naldo Willett, specially invited guests who are in our midst, the Deputy Chair of PAM, Ms. Shirley Morgan. We have special representatives from the PLP, Deputy Chair, Mrs. Cheryl Reed Nisbet. Present as well is the chairperson for Constituency 3 of the PLP, Mr. Marlon Brown. Family members of Mr. Zephaniah Liebert and Mrs. Eunice Liebert. Family members of Mr. Gilbert Phillip. Family members of Mr. Hastings Daniel. Our caretaker candidates for the NRP, delegates who are present, other specially invited guests, ladies, gentlemen, or should I say brothers and sisters of the NRP, good afternoon. I bring you special greetings from the beautiful island of St. Lucia, but also from the St. Lucia Labour Party and our political leader, Honorable Philip J. Pierre. I want to thank your party, Madam Political Leader, Mr. Chairman, for inviting me here to be your featured speaker. I want to thank you for your hospitality. Nevis really is a beautiful island. And your people really are amazingly warm people. I sat at the head table and I paid attention to the room. And I will tell you, even before I commence my address, the next time I come to Nevis and I come to an NRP function, I need to see more young people in the room. We must do whatever it takes to get our young people on board, to get them involved in our party, because the young people have a critical role to play in ensuring that the NRP forms the next government. And so for the young ones who are in the room and within my hearing, you have a task to bring one with you. Each of us have a responsibility to tell someone, to encourage someone, and to ensure that we spread the message that Nevis will be in good hands under the NRP. My brothers and my sisters, my task today really is not to seek your applause or your cheers. I am not here, and I will tell you that from very early, to say what sounds good and what will make you happy. That is not my mission this afternoon. You have an election to win, and you will not do so by hearing only what you want to hear. In order for you to win an election, it requires discomfort, hard conversations, hard truths. It requires that we do what is necessary to overcome the challenges within the NRP. It requires changes, difficult decisions, difficult conversations. And so I am sorry for those who will be offended by my frankness, but I assure you that my remarks come from a place of love and from a deep desire to see progress, commitment, integrity, accountability, and good governance return to the island of Nevis. I do not believe that your theme was chosen by accident. Navigating challenges, restoring hope, preparing for governance. I believe this theme should engage you, and it should guide your decisions and your actions, because we are at the midterm mark, and we are presently preparing and looking forward to the 2027 elections. In order to be prepared, my brothers and sisters, you must first overcome some of the hurdles and the challenges that you will face and currently face as an opposition. One of the biggest challenges that any opposition party will face is the lack of resources. The NRP is up against millions of dollars. And as you have seen in the past, the CCM will use every single cent, including that of the public purse, to campaign. As an opposition, you will never have enough money to match the government. You don't have money to finance projects. You don't have money to give grants. And you don't have money to buy votes like they would do. That means it would require something special from your candidates. It would require something special from your leader. It would require something special from your party and every single person who wears that green, who raises that flag and represents the NRP. How then, brothers and sisters, do you overcome a challenge where really and truly you do not have the money to give? From my experience, and I'm sure it's probably the same in Nevis, you will hear candidates say, I don't go around because the people will ask me for money. The people will ask me for help. And if I do not have the money, what do you expect me to do? Well, my brother and my dear sister, if you are interested in politics, and you are interested in being a representative of the people, then money should not be a barrier between you and your constituents. You have a duty and a responsibility to connect with your people. And our former premier is here. He will tell you, in my days, we didn't have money to give. We had to walk the streets. We had to meet everybody. We had to knock on all the doors, and we had to form relationships with our people. And so you go into the constituency, you introduce yourself to the people, give them an opportunity to see your heart and to know who you are. If they make the request, because the request will come, you can still make calls on their behalf. You can host events to raise funds on their behalf. You can reach out to your supporters who are in the diaspora and request the assistance on their behalf. Where the challenge is too great, you have a responsibility to be honest with them. Let them know what your efforts are, and if they have failed, give them the hope and the promise that they will be the priority when you form the next government. Absence and silence are not answers to the financial challenges that the NRP face as an opposition. I ask, in fact, I beg that you be visible. Visit the sick and the shut-in your communities. It does not cost a thing. Attend the funeral services of those who have passed. It does not cost a thing. Visit the homes of those who mourn in your community. It does not cost a thing. Visit the schools and speak to the teachers and ask them, who are the students who are struggling in the school? Who are the families who are struggling in the communities? It does not cost a thing. Issue statements, host press conferences, sound the alarm about the issues that affect the poor and vulnerable in your constituency. Let the people see you. Go to the people where they are. It really does not cost a thing to communicate with your constituents and to have a presence in your constituency. You can only overcome the financial struggles, challenges, and barriers if you build strong relationships with your community. My brothers and sisters, another challenge you may face, and as I look upon the faces in the room, I can tell you, I will relate, that this green flag has been carried election after election, time and time again, by the stalwarts of the NRP. They will become tired. They will become frustrated. They will lose hope. Brothers and sisters, it is not easy to be in opposition. I have been there, and so I can tell you what it is. But today, I want to encourage those of you who are in the room and within my hearing, never give up. I encourage you to trust God. Trust the process. Trust your political leader. And believe that some things will take a little more time. Some of your own will betray you in the process. Sometimes they will not appreciate or understand what you do. But be encouraged. Because Galatians 6:9 says, and let us not grow weary of doing good. For in due season, my brothers and sisters, we will reap if we do not give up. And so I encourage you to press on. It is okay to rest if you get tired, but do not fall asleep at the wheel. Do not fall asleep on the job. Get yourself together, put your shoes back on and let us fight for the future of this country. I say that the responsibility falls on you, my brothers and sisters, because the people of Nevis can only get a caring premier if you support Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge and the NRP. You can only get rid of the CCM if you support your leader and your party. And so I call on you to be united. You must be dedicated. You must be unshakable in your belief that NRP is what Nevis needs. You must be passionate about serving and helping your party and the people of your community. Walk by faith. Stay alert and ensure that you stand with your leader. Ensure that you stand with your party as we are about to take on another challenge heading up to 2027. My brothers and my sisters, the challenges you face as a party, and Mr. Chairman and the executive will be tasked to devise some plans and strategies to navigate. Because these challenges, while they are not unique, if they remain unresolved, there will be dire consequences for your party. I will come back to this a little bit when I speak directly to preparing for governance. But all I will say at this juncture is that there are challenges that you will face as a party, which is the business of the party. But then there are challenges that the whole of Nevis will face, and still it is your responsibility as a party to take on these challenges so that the people can get proper representation from its government. Brothers and sisters, the cost of living in Nevis has increased tremendously. This has plunged more people into poverty, and it has increased the gap between those who have and those who do not. It is your responsibility as the People's Party to champion the cause of the poor people of this island. People now must pay more for water, for groceries, for fuel. Electricity has increased, and taxes are increasing, all because of CCM's poor financial decisions. Nevis is a beautiful island, and so it must be an island where all Nevisians benefit. This has to be the country for all, not the country for CCM and their friends and their family. And so as a party, you must prepare to be the champion of these people in opposition as well as in governance. You are their only hope. The poor people of this country can only hope that the NRP will get into office in the next elections so that there are opportunities that will assist them. And so I challenge our political leader to put in place the plans that are necessary and share these plans with the people of Nevis in a timely manner, because the people must know what they are voting for. Sometimes as an opposition, we spend so much time talking down our opponents, and we dedicate such little time to sharing our own plans and ideas. Instead of talking about Mark Brantley all day, develop your Operation Rescue Nevis. Spend time sharing, spend time explaining, spend time promoting your own ideas to develop this beautiful island. And if there is one thing I want you to remember from today's address, it is this: a bad government is not enough to remove the NRP from opposition. To get into government, you must work hard. You must knock on every door. You must reach every voter. You must share your own plan for the development of this island. People must see you as a change. They must believe that you are able to transform their lives. Change the narrative from CCM is bad to NRP is the best party to move Nevis forward. People must trust you. They must believe in your ideas, and that can only happen if you bring them into your confidence and you share your plans with them. My brothers and sisters, preparing for governance. I have said over and over, I said it yesterday and I have probably said it about 3 times so far, you must put in the work. Politics is not easy. Politics is not glamorous. Politics is not about dressing up and holding a microphone and giving a beautiful speech. You know why? The people who make the difference in the election, they are not in this room. The people who will decide whether you form the next government or not, they are not sitting before me today. How do we reach these people? You need to ensure that you have a proper assessment of each parish. You need to determine as a party whether your present representatives and caretaker candidates are pulling their weight and connecting with the people in the constituency. You need to know who your supporters are, because you must do everything to keep them in the fold. And you must know who supports the other side, because as much as possible, you must reach out to neutralize them or bring them across to support your party. Brothers and sisters, you must know who the new voters are. That is the only way you can position yourself to make the NRP their party of choice. The voters list is like a Bible for a political party. You keep that close. Ask questions about the names. Go to the houses to identify the voters. Ensure you know their nicknames, where they work. If they have 2 homes, you need to know where they are likely to be on election day, because it is your job to identify them and pull them out to vote. And I say directly to the candidates, it is not just the job of the constituency chairman and the constituency group to do the work. It is your job too. You need to go to the homes. You must walk the streets. You must be the example that they follow. Put on your campaign shoes and lead your team, because the mobilization of your constituency is your responsibility. You cannot rock back, look pretty, show up to events, not be committed to your party, not have a good relationship with your constituency group, not show up when it is necessary for you to be there, and expect that people will leave their business behind, leave their families behind, and go into the constituency and campaign on your behalf. You must want it just as bad as everyone else. And if you do not want to do the work, if you are not capable of doing the work, you simply need to make way for those who have the ability to lead the NRP to victory. And I say this without fear or favor, because the NRP is bigger than you and you and you and you and you. There is no one person in this party who is bigger than the NRP. You need to shape up or ship out. Brothers and sisters, there is one mission, and that mission is to form the next government. There will be strong opinions, and there will be decisions, and there will be disagreements. Madam Political Leader, you may not agree with all of the propositions that are brought before you. Mr. Chairman, you may not agree with what Constituency 1 believes is their priority. We may not all see eye to eye on all issues, but we must respect our political leader. We must respect the Constitution of the NRP. We must respect the offices and the officers of the party. We cannot allow petty squabbles and personalities to distract us from the mission of bringing good governance to Nevis. I ask that you remain steadfast and focused at the task at hand. The future of Nevis is in your hands. Nevis needs the NRP for the completion of the Alexandra Hospital. Nevis needs the NRP for the diversification of the economy. Nevis needs the NRP for job creation. Nevis needs the NRP for opportunities in education for the young people. Nevis needs the NRP for poverty reduction. Nevis needs the NRP for assistance to our farmers and our fishers who are struggling. You can only deliver for Nevis if you are united, if you walk with purpose, and if you support your political leader and your party. My brothers and sisters, the stage I am standing on today was created 54 years ago. This great party was formed by one of your great sons, Sir Simeon Daniel. The NRP was then and remains now the People's Party. The pillars of the NRP, inclusivity, integrity, innovation, and industry must be the bedrock of everything that you do. I want to touch on inclusivity. And that is because you have unique situations happening in your constituencies. You would realize that some of the people who support you now were not always on the NRP train. The people who caused you to win the seat that you thought you would not have won, and many people, oh, they underestimated your political leader. And that is the most beautiful thing about her. When they underestimate you, while you're a hard worker, you take them by surprise and it's licks. In order for you to maintain that seat, and in order for you to win other seats, you must get the votes of those who do not traditionally support the NRP. If I count everyone in this room, it would not be enough to win one constituency. There are some who are not here today because of their professional commitments. You know you have a very vindictive government. And there are some, if they were to show up today, even though they were not wearing a green shirt, they would not have a job to go to tomorrow. That is the government that you have. There are those who are not here because they are in the diaspora. There are those who are not here because there are other family commitments. They too are part of the NRP family. You need to embrace them. Make them feel welcome. Encourage them so that they can encourage other people to support the party. You need all your human resource on board. You need all the skills you can gather on board. You need all the donations that you can muster from here and from afar if you are to form the next government. And so I ask you to embrace those who are coming from the other side. Embrace those who have no side. Because they are not in the room with you today, it doesn't mean that they are not important. It does not mean that they do not support you. My brothers and sisters, I do not want to be much longer. But before I close, I want to just caution our party against discarding and ignoring our long-serving members and the stalwarts of the NRP. As we welcome new members and supporters, you must honor those who have dedicated their lives and worked tirelessly for the NRP and Nevis. There is a lot that you can learn from your stalwarts. They understand these parishes inside out. They are the voice of wisdom. I know it is tempting to discard them for the fresh ideas and the new faces, but I warn that you would do so at your own peril. Without those who toiled before us, without the soldiers who show up election after election and convention after convention, the NRP will not succeed. Without a foundation, the house cannot stand. And so I urge you to recognize your loyal supporters, honor them, and when you get into office, please do not forget the persons who have sacrificed and have been there year after year, election after election, supporting the NRP. And in conclusion, my brothers and my sisters, it would be remiss of me not to tell you how much of a remarkable political leader you have in the person of Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. Very unassuming, very hardworking, very mindful, very strategic. I watched her yesterday as she carried the breakfast plates at Cabell's Place. She was down at Newcastle Bay. She was at Herbert's Beach checking on her fishers and interacting with her constituents. She drove and she walked through her constituency to assess the damage which was caused by the recent heavy rains. NRP, you have a worker. You have a strong leader. This is a humble leader. This is a woman of integrity. This is a woman of class. This is a leader who cares. I call on you, my brothers and sisters, to stand to your feet and join me as we give a rousing round of applause to your political leader, Dr. Janice Hodge. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. The task ahead of her is great, but the resolve is greater. Those who fight and oppose her are strong, but the God who protects her and leads her is stronger. They will come at her from all sides, and they will attempt to mislead you, and they will attempt to trick you. But I will tell you that your leader is wise. Put your trust and confidence in Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge and work with her as she leads you into the next elections to restore honesty and integrity into this country. I ask that you vote against arrogance and corruption, and you vote for Dr. Janice Hodge, a leader who cares, a leader who will work for the people of Nevis. And as I leave, I again want to say to you that you must be vigilant, brothers and sisters. You must be alert. There are no days off in politics. The road ahead is a long one, but I ask that you hold the fort. I ask that you keep that flag flying. Remain committed to your party, and let us work together to remove CCM and restore a government of the people, the NRP. Long live the NRP. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, listeners, the brilliant St. Lucian attorney Jedia Jean-Pierre, featured speaker at yesterday's NRP convention, delivering on the theme, Navigating Challenges, Restoring Hope, Preparing for Governance. The party leader, the cool ruler, is already in studio, so we'll take a break and come back and get her input on what happened yesterday at the Occasions Entertainment Center.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
And we're back. Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, an extraordinary weekend. Of course, on Saturday, you had an appreciation breakfast next to Kabu's shop in Fountain, and then into the convention on Sunday. What a weekend it was.
Quite an interesting weekend, quite a busy weekend, but this is NRP's 54th year, and the older you get, the wiser you get, the more you recognize what's important, what needs to be priority. And certainly the Appreciation Breakfast is an initiative by the St. James Constituency Group, and it's our way of expressing our appreciation for our people, appreciating some of the hardships that they are experiencing, and an opportunity for us to come together and have conversations in a very informal setting, but a very encouraging and comforting setting. So, as usual, I think this is the third year that we're having those breakfasts, and we have one in each village. And so this past Saturday was the first one. We usually start in Fountain, then we go across to Butler's, down to Brickhill, Camps, and then we end in Newcastle. So, but before we get into the meat of the matter, I just want to again extend appreciation to all who participated in our convention. Definitely a lot of food for thought, and certainly a lot of, as I would call, a lot of nuggets for us to take away and chew at. It was yesterday, actually. I think I called my good friend Sylvester Pemberton because he had a birthday, and of course with so much going on. And then I noticed he made a post, and I said, let me call Sylvester. It really was my intention to call before, and then I know one of our colleagues in the executive, Carol Pemberton, she had a birthday as well. And so to all who were celebrating birthday this past week, I take this opportunity to extend best wishes, and to those who have birthdays coming up, I wish you all the best. We know that on tomorrow we have graduation ceremonies, and so definitely, congratulations are in order. There are a number of persons that I would want to go and see personally. Um, it's been so long ago since I graduated high school, but I can still, remember the feeling of that accomplishment once you have completed. And so I look forward to attending all of the graduation ceremonies, actually. And then on Saturday, of course, we have the funeral of Hastings and Daniel. That one has not really sunk in as yet. But, we have faith in the good Lord above and know that He knows all and sees all. And so we just walk in faith. It has been a lot happening. A lot has been happening. And on Saturday, I'll get back to the breakfast. On Saturday, our featured speaker, she did arrive on island on Friday, and she was quite eager to be out. I thought maybe after traveling she may want to rest, but she was quite eager to get out, and I can see from her address that she really wanted to get out to get her own feeling of what was on the ground and to see for herself and to experience what was really going on. So my typical Saturdays, I sort of alternate. Sometimes I'm at church, sometimes I'm at the bay, but usually on Saturday it's when it's sort of rejuvenating for me, because either place I do feel rejuvenated and get ready to start the new week ahead. And so it was interesting because we would have had the rains and especially going down to Long Hall Bay, that road was really washed away, and so some temporary measures were taken so that the fishers could pass. But the rains that came, it gave us an idea of how important it is to get things done right, not to rush, not just to make it look pretty, but to make sure that the roadworks are sturdy and they can actually withstand the type of downpour that we had. And so lots of things that we would need to pay attention to. I know over in the Butler's area, in that area next to Esme going up to the church, yeah, when you saw all of the fill going in, you sort of questioned it, but you would just assume that the necessary calculations were done. But then that was not the case, and so there was some serious damage over in that area that would need to be restored. Nonetheless, it was a busy weekend, lots going back and forth, but I must say that the convention is one that is going to, linger on my mind for a while. And, our conventions have been good. I can recall when Victor J. Martin was the featured speaker, and that was really, a moment to reflect and to be motivated to go forward, and certainly to on Sunday with Jadir Jean-Pierre, it was almost at a crossroads. And she pointed out that we're at the midterm of the elections, and it was really, in my mind, a call to saying that Nevis needs the NRP based on what everyone has seen, based on what NRP has done for Nevis, based on where we are now. And it's almost as if NRP, you cannot afford to not do what is necessary to be in government once again. And so it was really very motivating. And I hope that, all who were there would have felt the same passion and the eagerness to get it done. And for me, we speak a lot about the challenges. And our theme, as we said, navigating challenges, restoring hope, and preparing for governance. And challenges, are something that, the NRP has had to deal with over all of our years, really. And, I get the feeling that those challenges can be overcome. We saw how NRP worked before to overcome those challenges. We know that times change and you have different circumstances, but I am resolute that we can do it. And I think that there are some hard-working people in NRP. I think we can have some more hard-working people. And it was quite instructive to listen to the featured speaker speak about her experiences. And I think it was the right speaker at the right time. Someone who could draw from her own experience and sort of ensure that we get the message. And I think that those who were there and those who have listened, it's almost a call to action. And so we can't afford to go back. And I'll tell you, I've listened to that speech on numerous occasions, and it is certainly one that I would listen to over and over again because it does motivate and it does encourage you to work hard because, it's one thing when we're here and, you go around and you speak to people and you find out the concerns, etc. But the St. Lucia Labour Party is really not a stranger to the NRP. The current Prime Minister, Philip Japir, yes, he would have spoken at one of our conventions.
I think 2009,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yes. And so, when you see that people, not just here in Nevis, but across the region, are counting on you. Because as a region, we always say that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And even though based on our constitution, we have a unique system with our governance here in Nevis, but I oftentimes say I cannot understand why the Premier is allowed to operate with such lack of accountability and such lack of transparency. And, it's getting more and more galling when you recognize how funds are being wasted and you see without any accountability of what, would have transpired before, that there is still this willingness to, provide additional funds. And, they're the saying, when somebody shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And so when you see a government that cannot finish any projects, cannot give accountability for the funding, and you recognize that it's just talk, when we look at the airport and we understand what is being proposed, it is very difficult to comprehend how that project can be taken on at this time,
Mhm.
knowing full well that the hospital, I mean, we always say your health is your wealth. And, you know, what is going to happen to the hospital? The services that are to be provided by the expansion, how do we say that the hospital is operating fine? What then was the justification for the expansion in the first place? Because it cannot be that the Premier would say it's not a big deal, but then it's a major project that was undertaken and cannot be completed. And when we look at all of the other projects, to contemplate that this CCM government is going to try to take on the airport project, we must be concerned, seriously concerned. Because here is the concern, Mr. Manners. When we look at the amount of financing that would be required, upwards of $100 million. Usually when you're getting into a business, because this project is supposed to revive the airport, to make it vibrant and to provide jobs and to put some money in the economy. But when we cannot see at what point do we start to see a profit from everything that was done, we cannot say whether or not it is going to be a commercial loan, what the interest rate may be, what may be the terms of repayment. And when you have all of these uncertainties, it makes it very difficult to determine the cost effectiveness of the project. And the challenge that we have is that we know that this government, they do not go out and try to find the concessionary financing, low interest loans from the development banks. I just read something today where the Prime Minister signed an MOU.
Well, let me read it. I have it
okay.
right here. Prime Minister Terence Dew said, "This morning I traveled to Barbados to participate in the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with the Export-Import Bank of the United States, EXIM, securing access to up to $300 million in financing. This funding will support critical projects aligned with our sustainable island state agenda in our thrust to diversify our economy and to decrease our dependence on any single sector. The MOU highlights our commitment to advancing sustainable development while strengthening our partnership with the United States." My thought was whether financing for the airport is contained within.
Well, there's so many concerns. And, you know, the last time the Prime Minister spoke about the projects that he's looking at, the desal plant and all of these different projects in St. Kitts, the only project in Nevis that was mentioned was the geothermal development project. And yet still we're not certain of how much financing may be available for that. But these are the types of initiatives you would want to see more of, that when the Prime Minister would sign these MOUs, it would be good for the Premier to then be able to say how Nevis may be impacted from these sorts of things. And we're really not seeing that. I have not seen a copy of the EIA to this point, but it would be interesting to see the area that has to be reclaimed, what kinds of studies were done. And we know we have some erosion over on that side of the island. And we know that the airport is relatively close to the ocean, and so if we're going to be extending it towards Hurricane Hill, that's you're going to have to do some reclamation there, but that area suffers from erosion. So in terms of building resilience to the impacts of climate change, those are the things that I would be looking to see, because you cannot invest 120 million dollars in a project and then you start to have it undermined because of climatic conditions. So I just feel that once I have a look at the EIA, I would be able to see whether or not those issues have been addressed. So the EIA is one concern. The financing and the terms of financing is another major concern. And the last thing I'm going to say about the airport is that it is disheartening to know that the airport that is being proposed is not one that was born out of the necessary feasibility studies to determine, based on our location, based on what is happening around us, what would be the best approach for Nevis to develop our airport. Is it to deal with the jets? There was talk about flight schools. There was talk about extending it to accommodate certain type of flights. So the lack of information, and it just really, is every time the Premier opens his mouth and says that this is a transparent government, and all of this information to this point, no one can obtain. And so we will see how the airport goes, but I am not very comfortable that if the airport is started, that it would be completed. And I heard him mention about maybe, operating in phases. Well, you can't start a project and then, depending on the financing, determine which phase would be, the best one, or how this is something that you would need to have at the onset. What would be the first phase so that the airport can continue to be functional, and what would be the second phase and the third phase if it goes on, for so long. But the interesting thing is that the new owners of the Nisbet Hotel indicated at the meeting that they were not included in the consultation, and such a major stakeholder, one would question why, because of course if they have plans to develop and reopen Nisbet, this is something that you would want to be able to collaborate on to ensure that you can have the best of both situations. But again, total disregard, and they know what they want and why they want it, without considering, because if Nisbet is not able to expand as they have indicated they would like to do, and this airport project, how long is it going to take? I mean, we couldn't even get an indication of how many jobs may be available when it's fully operational. Compared, of course, to Nisbet, we know how many persons were working there, and upon expansion, you'd expect more people to be working there. So the whole airport expansion project, there's a lot left to be desired, and we have to continue to speak up about these issues so that people don't take it for granted that this is going to be done, and we just sit back and see what happens, because even the homeowners who are to be relocated from that area, there is no certainty as to when they may have to relocate, no certainty as to when the project is actually going to start. So there's so many uncertainties, and at this point in the project, after so many months, it's just, if you don't have a book to write in, you can write in the air, and nothing happens. So definitely we're concerned about the airport, and I will be paying close attention to it, and try to ensure that whatever is done in the best interest of the people, and try to ensure that we do not have another incomplete project.
Next week, Tuesday, of course, is the Nevis Island Assembly budget. Unlike St. Kitts, I don't know there's been any public consultation. All the information we get is either from a press conference or a Wednesday night talk show. And you get a sense sometimes we're stumbling in the dark. Are you expecting some surprises next week in the budget? For instance, where the funding is going to be coming from, whether it's going to be phased or not, whether he has reconsidered the stance with Nisbet, because in previous occasions he had sort of suggested, we don't know what they're doing. He didn't even seem to know that the deal had closed in August. So whereas we should be working in harmony to ensure that we benefit from both, your friend Alexis Streffer seemed to be all about getting this thing done, whether there's rationale or not.
Well, I mean, he was referred to as a bull in a china shop. I mean, you heard about his approach to the Newcastle police station, where they didn't have a plan. They just went in and started bulldozing, and then they had a plan but no money. And to this day, a fire truck cannot fit into the station. And so I would say that is still an incomplete project, because the project concept and design was that we can have a fire truck stationed in Newcastle. We still have to wait. If there is a fire on that side of the island, we still have to wait for a fire truck to come from Charlestown. And when this project was conceived, the intention was that you would have a fire truck station there, and that would have been something beneficial. But the fire truck cannot fit. There's no fire truck there, and I'm not even certain where we are with regards to getting a new fire truck, because remember that one came over from St. Kitts. But the interesting thing is that when one listens to what is being said, the new owners of Nisbet indicated that they finally got title in August of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yet at a prior press conference, you would swear that the Premier was at his wit's end, because he gave people everything that they want, all of the concessions that they wanted, and still nothing. What if the people just got their title in August?
Mm-hmm.
What does he expect? And if they are not aware of what is going on with the airport, and now that they're aware because there is a public consultation, he must take the responsibility for that. So I am not certain that the Premier himself knows what is to be expected with regards to the airport expansion and the Nisbet hotel expansion. And that is something I really feel that all parties should have been able to sit around a table and work out exactly what are the benefits to be derived from the airport expansion, what are the benefits to be derived from the Nisbet expansion, and work out something that would be in the best interest of the people, where both can coexist. But as it is right now, it's as if, Alexis and the Premier, they're doing what they want to do. And the potential investors, they're left on their own to figure out how they can fit into this situation, which is very unfortunate. But, it is not surprising. It is not surprising that the Premier is in this situation right now, because, you're not seeing NASPA anywhere in the discussion, and Alexis can only repeat what the engineers say to him, and he does not know what is the follow-up question in order to find out how best we can move forward. So I really see him of no real purpose to that project, and we must be concerned. We must be concerned. Some people feel, well, let them go ahead and get started, but I would not want to see an airport under construction for the next 5, 10 years. And I'm not exaggerating, because the hospital has been under construction for the last 7, 8 years. And the hospital project should have been one that is more straightforward if at the onset you had the right experts to guide that development. Do we have the right experts here? I don't know. No opportunity for persons with new ideas to come in and contribute to the development in that regard, because as far as I understand it, Paris Consulting has been here forever, and whatever arrangement is made now, it's like they just took them up, pushed them off, and said, okay, we're ready to go again. And so when we speak about the lack of accountability, poor governance, I mean, how can you have a major capital project like that and no bidding to get the best models and that sort of thing? So I pray that the Nisbet expansion project is not adversely impacted. I know there has been some concern because, of course, the types of villas and the type of high-end development that they would want to put there, they are actually, it would be in their best interest to find out the amount of investment that they would want to make and how it may be impacted by the airport, when I think both could have been working together.
Now, I watched the public consultation online. Never once did the cameras focused on the premier. I understand from people who were there, he was sitting somewhere out of camera range, fiddling on his phone. Did it surprise you that he didn't say anything there? You think he's stringing up Alexis, hanging him out to dry?
Well, what is the premier going to ask?
Or make a comment. He's the Minister of Finance. I just got a sense that he's planning to do a shaggy.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
As he always does.
Well, it all goes back to the leader. He is the one. I mean, he would tell you what they sit in cabinet and what they decide and what they, choose to do. They sat in cabinet and decided to spend $800,000 on the landscaping of the Bath Hotel. No consultation, outside. And then, people are saying, well, they went expecting to see the pools, some upgrade to the pools, but the upgrade was really, in the landscaping and the change rooms, etc. But the pool themselves have not been touched. And so, when you see these sorts of decision being taken by a few people who sit in a room without actually engaging, because a project like that really should have had some consultation as well, and you get feedback and you decide where to go. So I mean, it's typical of them that they sit and they decide, and then they figure, well, it's good enough for you. Just as he said with the Mondo track, well, you can run on it, right? It doesn't matter that it is not complete. But overall, I have to say that the development of Nevis right now is rather haphazard. There's no overall focus, no real plan. And this is something that I feel it's going to definitely not be beneficial, especially to our youths who are graduating now. They really don't know where to focus their energies and how are they going to fit in to what is being proposed. And if CCM's approach to the development of Nevis is simply about some blocks and mortar, then that is not very appealing. And so on one hand, we're trying to build the island, build the population, but there's nothing to keep the people here. And so all of those must be looked at, in some sort of context.
It would be remiss of me if we end the program. We're a good way off, but I'm saying, but we have to back up a little bit to the convention, because a very touching moment was when the NRP honored three party stalwarts. Zephaniah Rowan Liebert and his wife, Eunice, both of them were lost to us in 2024. Zephaniah, of course, is the most fierce of all the secessionists who started the Nevis Reformation Party in 1970. Brother Philip, as we know him, was a workhorse within the party. We lost him just a couple of months as well. And of course, they were honored, they were remembered. Conrad Nair Liebert, the son of Zephaniah and Eunice, was there to receive their honor. And the wife of Brother Philip was also there. And of course, Hastings, who first manager of the Nevis Housing and Land Corporation, which, as Carlisle pointed out, was able to sell Nevisians an acre of land for $6,000 in Fort Gales, Nisbet settlement, all over the island. People couldn't believe it when that offer was made. And he is, of course, going to be laid to rest on Saturday. His honor taken by his brother, former Deputy Premier Hensley Daniel. Speak to that moment. It was touching.
Indeed, it was. And if it's one thing I can say that I appreciate about this NRP, is we're always finding ways to include and to recognize our stalwarts. And this is something that is important. And I said it at the convention, that it is good that I can pick up the phone and I can reach out to, some of our former parliamentarians, etc. And of course, I oftentimes wonder if my dad were here, what it would be like. But I do feel that connection between, it's not as if they are over there and they did their part and now it's our turn, and I think that is something that is quite useful, quite beneficial. And, I listened to Naya accept the award on behalf of his parents, and he, you could see the reflection as he spoke. And sometimes, those are the things that keep us grounded and keep us focused and understand that we are a party for the people. And when I listened to Miss Phillip, she spoke about how her husband would help with getting, all the electrical work done. I mean, these are things that we cannot overlook. And it really was a bit nostalgic for me, because I can remember as a child growing up, these are people who I would see and hear about. And I mentioned some of the names, of those who went before, like Levi Morton and Horace Liebert and all of those.
Swanston.
Yeah, so it is definitely, for me, a sort of a grounding moment to kind of keep me on track. And I'm certain it would probably be the same for a lot of others. And, helps you to recognize when you look at what they would have done with so little resources, just by sweat and, hard work, that they were able to advance Nevis in such a way, then it's certainly motivating that, we can put in the work as well and take Nevis forward. So I certainly do appreciate those opportunities when we can reflect on, as we say, the stalwarts and those who would have laid the foundation, and which I feel is so important, because as it is right now, as we speak about diversifying the economy and some of the things that we must look at, we can be proud that we have this strong foundation that was laid there by NRP. So that was certainly, a moment of reflection and appreciation, and it's something that I feel that we should definitely maintain in terms of that connection. And as we go back to the convention, um, I listened, and I want to take this opportunity to thank again the supporters who were there, the convention arrangement committee that worked tirelessly to make sure that we had everything in order, and the national anthem was sung by Janaya Daniel, and she always gives me goosebumps when I
She's a songbird.
yes when I listen to her sing. And of course, I'm not doing a vote of thanks again, but Pastor Prentice always seems to be right on point. And it's as if you feel like God is right there in the room, and he's talking to him, and you can just feel it coming through you all the time. And so I really am pleased with the convention. I'm pleased to be associated with the the effort and everybody who was there. And as I said at the onset, it's a time when you can get to mingle and people who you have not seen for some time. You get a chance to, as I said, press the flesh, and you feel that energy, and it's really good. So looking forward to the next year convention. But I would just hope that the motivation that I received from that convention, the reflections of what NRP would have done, the future that we're looking forward to, I think it came at a great time. And as I said before, the featured speaker, I think she was, I like to say sometimes that, as Queen Esther said to Mordecai, I do feel that she came with the right tone, the right message, because we cannot afford to be complacent. We must work tirelessly, and the working tirelessly is really about reaching out to the people and providing an opportunity for them to share, their pain and their hardships with you. And this is something that I find is very useful, because if people don't have that trust and that confidence that they can share, some of their challenges with you, then they tend to get frustrated and they're lost. And our theme, restoring hope, I think that is what we are doing right now, but not just for now in terms of giving people that hope, but understanding that we do have a way. And my theme song, which I thought was quite appropriate, your tomorrow will be greater than today. And that is something that I definitely do believe. But as we always say, in order for that to happen, change must come. So yes, indeed, the convention, I think it took us back. It took us to the future. We were called to action at this point in time, and so I do believe that we got out of the convention what we needed. And to the persons who are recognized, posthumously, I do feel that the family appreciate the fact that we acknowledge and we recognize the hard work that they put in, and hopefully that can encourage others to continue working hard as well.
I don't know how many Divisions know this, especially the younger ones, but as the soft opening of Four Seasons drew close, Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1991, your father and the other members of the government were scratching their heads on how to get power to the Four Seasons to meet the opening. And it is Brother Philip with a handful of men who undertook that task and got electricity from Prospect to Four Seasons in time for the opening. He's always told me that he was very, very proud of that moment. Of course, it was very good to see former Premier Joseph Barry sitting in the front row, always in support.
Absolutely.
So a fantastic day. We got just about 10 minutes. Let's turn our attention a little bit to COP29, which concluded over the weekend. 2024 Climate Change Conference held in Baku, Nigeria, Azerbaijan. Last year, it was a little later, November 30th to December 11th, and there was a huge delegation of 30 plus from the Federation, minus you, I must say, a main advocate for climate change and all of that sustainable stuff. St. Kitts Nevis seemed to have a very muted response attendance. I know that Minister Clark, Minister of Environment, attended, made a presentation. Why do you think St. Kitts Nevis put in such a small presence this year?
Well, I think there is quite a bit of concern. I mean, I really don't know why, but I think the main issue is at COP29 really had to do with trying to get the Paris Agreement enforced. And we know that under the Paris Agreement, there was a commitment that the developed countries would provide $100 billion to help developing countries like St. Kitts and Nevis build resilience to the impacts of climate change. I know last year, Vice President Kamala Harris was quite instrumental in working on the PAC 2030. And so that had to do with the partnership between America and the Caribbean islands for climate change. And so that is something that I feel maybe everybody wanted to be a part of. This year, with the change in the United States government presidency and the position that President-elect Trump had expressed with regards to the reality of climate change, you know, there's some who feel a bit let down because the first time as president, he would have withdrawn the United States from the Paris Agreement. And a lot of the other countries were really looking to America to contribute a lot. One of the agreements that they arrived at was that rather than $100 billion, they would now be committing to $300 million. But there's a lot of controversy about that decision. And the way that I look at it, if you have increased it to $300 million, there's some who say it should be up in the trillions of dollars to help these islands, build resiliency. But the decision was taken, and I think now is the time to build those relationships, because when you find a developing country that is willing to provide grants and to help small islands, you know, there's some developed countries that have their island that they have, you know, some favor with. And the importance of going to these COPs is to be able to really express your position, know exactly what your needs are, and try to build the alignment and relationships, which is something that in a different context, but the relationships must be built so that you can come back and you have somebody that you can liaise with, and you know what the priority areas for grant opportunities may be, and then you can start to, you know, put your proposals together in that regard. One of the concerns is that of the $300 billion that is being that was decided upon, the concern is that some of it is loans, would be loans, and the question is whether or not these developing states have the capacity to take on any additional loans. I suspect that they would be lower interest rates than the commercial banks, but what some of the developing countries were arguing for is that these islands need grants. We do not need loans. And but we know that there's some, mechanisms in place. I've seen some of the other Caribbean islands already starting to make some headway with some of the financing that is available. And I think we really need to build those types of relationships. I think it's Dominica um, has some relationship with regards to how they can help to mitigate the climate impact. But I would say, Mr. Manners, I think one of these evenings when I'm on here, I want to take some time to explain really how dealing with climate change can actually help in diversifying our economy and the different pathways that you can pursue. I think that is important because sometimes I speak about the blue economy, I speak about climate resilience, and while I understand fully what it entails, I think it's still a bit abstract to a number of people. So maybe one of these evenings I will come in and I will speak about the ways in which we here in Nevis can actually benefit from some of that financing. And I, of course, would prefer to find out the grants rather than the concessionary loans because you still have to pay those back. But yeah, COP29, at least they increased the amount that the developed countries, but of course they did not make the 100 billion. So the question is whether or not they're going to make the 300 billion. But the recognition is there that they need to provide more financing to these small island states to help us, as they say, it's an existential threat. And we have to start someplace. We need to have our climate plan and we need to have our projects that we can roll out because, some countries would be more interested in providing funding for renewable energy. Some would be more interested in providing funding for, erosion, shoreline erosion. Some would be interested in providing funding for forestation and that sort of thing. So it's really a sort of, how can I put it, a roadmap that you would have to develop to be able to move forward. But I certainly do believe that staying attuned with what's going on with climate financing, the alliances, there's quite a number of them. And at the last meeting in Antigua, the Antigua and Barbuda action strategy, it's called ABBAS. It provides an outline as to the type of priority projects for the Caribbean area. And, from time to time, you'd hear Prime Minister Gaston Brown speak about how many AC units he had to help combat the heat waves that we had. And those were, part of a regional project where these would be given. And so it's making that connection between the climate change issues and what we need. When he got those air-conditioned units, I said, while it may be good for us here in Nevis, the cost of electricity, I know so many people that have air-conditioned units in their homes, but they don't turn them on because the cost of electricity is very high. So we have to be able to look at all of those factors.
It's 10 o'clock, straight up. As JD has said, and everybody knows, you've had a very busy weekend, walking Long Hall Bay, Newcastle Bay, going to the villages, the constituency, serving food and breakfast up at Cabo. And then, of course, the convention, it can be very draining. So this is the last one for you. Budget in Nevis next Tuesday, and then the federal budget shortly thereafter. We know the Prime Minister has spoken about transitioning to seed. We haven't had any updates since we were told that up to September we had only raised 218 million from the CBI, a steep decline from last year. What are you expecting in the budgets, not only in Nevis, but in the federal budget, in terms of how we navigate the challenges and move into 2025?
I suspect that in the Nevis budget, I think we'll see some more cut and paste, copy and paste. Um, I'm not expecting to see anything exciting, really. There's really no room to do much of anything. The hospital, the airport, I suspect, as they said, they were going to focus on the hospital. Um, Now they're focusing on the hospital and the airport. Um, and, they do have some maintenance work to do. I would like to see some work done with regards to our sporting facilities and our school. Our schools on the outside, they
And
seem to
health
be,
centers.
they seem to be well, but
Gingerland has been in a community center forever. Cotton Ground, the same thing. Charlestown is here lying idle.
so did you ask me what I would like to see or what do I expect to see?
Whichever it's of your
Well,
choosing.
I don't expect to see much, but I would like to see,
Uh-huh.
some more financing going towards the schools. I still cannot understand why we were able to provide laptops to our students when Honorable Patrice Nisbet was there. And now we know that laptops and tablets are being given to the students in St. Kitts, and we can't get a word from the Minister of Education here with regards to our children, because as we say, this is the time when everybody's getting digital. You got to get your tech skills up and going. And I forgot we did have a tech skills workshop over the weekend as well. So I would really like to see us at least try to get up to par with what's happening in St. Kitts. I still do not understand why in St. Kitts the school lunch programs are of no cost to the parents, whereas there, is a cost over here. So those kind of.
Well, as you talk about differences between St. Kitts and Nevis, the Prime Minister said something very interesting at his recent roundtable. Ambulance service in St. Kitts is free as well.
Well, if we were to make a list of the disparaging factors, there would be many. There would be many. The cost of education in St. Kitts at CFPC compared to the Nevis Sixth Form College. Nevis Sixth Form College, our students still have to pay their fees. In St. Kitts, they don't have to pay. And then we have the added burden of our children getting over to St. Kitts with very minimal subsidies from the government. So we do have a lot of challenges over here in Nevis. On the St. Kitts budget, I expect I would hear more about the the desalination plant. I expect I would hear more about the housing project, the smart hospital. I'll see what we hear about the geothermal, the energy development. But overall, I think the threshold for the poverty assistance, at $2,500, and somebody has to pay rent. They have to pay bus fare. They have these basic things. It's really not adequate. I don't think so. Either we're going to see some major effort to help reduce the cost of living, or we're going to have to do better with helping our people to live a decent life. So we'll see what happens there. But Mr. Manners, before you wrap up, this is something that I just want to say, that my St. James constituency group, all of the things that you hear I am doing, let me not miss this moment to express my appreciation to them. We have the breakfast, but they're the ones who are up early and getting things done, getting all the cooking done and all that sort of thing. And I tell them that I do appreciate their assistance and their support, but just let me say it here publicly that I do appreciate the support. We have a new executive, as all of the constituency groups have, and we have a few anchor people there, and I just want them to know that I appreciate all that they do so that I can do what I need to do. And overall, I would like to say the youth arm, the women's arm, the women's arm really featured with the convention with regards to, the decorations and preparations and stuff like that, the youth arm. So, I really do think that our party, we have made a lot of strides, and I think after the speech by Attorney Jean-Pierre, I think that once we take some of those nuggets on board, I really think that we're going to be a force to be reckoned with, because while we can try to do what we want to do, it's always good when you get that little extra push and you recognize that so many are depending on us, that we really need to, just keep motivated. And as our theme said, restoring hope, giving people hope that tomorrow will be greater than today. Thank you.
Well, of course, tonight we focused on the speech of the brilliant attorney who flew all the way from St. Lucia to be here with us, and she integrated very well. I hope the chairperson, I know you're tired, I can see it in your eyes, but I hope whether via phone call or whether in person on Carlisle and Kelvin's Thursday night show, should be able to unravel your speech as well. Because, of course, after that we go into budget and then Christmas, and, normally we cut off early for the Christmas and so on. So maybe you should consider that even through a phone call on Thursday night to tell me to speak more about your presentation as we focus tonight on our featured speaker. But always so glad to have you. It's 9 minutes past 10. Didn't intend to keep you 9 minutes over time because it's been a hectic weekend. Thank you so much. As always, the country knows, the region knows that Janice cares. That's our show for Monday, November 25th. We'll be back next week.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
This coming Black Friday, November 29th, and Cyber Monday, December 2nd, the place to shop is Smart Electronics and Island Electronics for the best deals and prices.